Well, if this was a ball game, we'd clearly be in the seventh inning stretch right now because we are getting ready for fall, and those are the last innings of the beekeeping season. You want to know what's going on? Stay tuned to this video. Hey everyone, this is John with Sir Winston Honeybees. Today is Thursday. Yes, it is. It is Thursday, August 6th, 2026. We are in Northeast Ohio where it is currently 84 degrees and it feels warm, not very humid. I checked the Alexa and Alexa said our humidity is at 51%, even though I thought it was a little bit more humid than that. But Alexa says 51%. And we know that what Alexa says is correct. All right, my name is John again. I'm with Sir Winston Honeybees. If you've never watched my channel before, welcome to my channel. I'm a beekeeper in Northeast Ohio. I'm a hobbyist beekeeper. That means I just do this as a hobby. It's not what I do full time. I'm actually a high school teacher, teach history, audio video production, and I started this channel as a quote unquote educational opportunity for my students to learn about how to be YouTubers. Because every time a student walks into my classroom during open house, their parent says, Johnny wants to be a YouTuber. So I thought, okay, what best way to teach being a YouTuber than being a YouTuber? So I started this channel, and now my audio and video production students, at the end of the year, they take all their projects, load it up on their YouTube channels, and they're YouTubers. Hopefully they keep it up and they try and become influencers. I have one last year who I know, I'm pretty sure she's going to keep it up because she's very passionate about being a YouTuber. But enough about that, because like I said, I'm a hobbyist beekeeper. So hobbyist beekeeper is a person who keeps very few hives. Right now, I have 2 hives, 2 nukes. The nukes are empty right now, but in the spring of 2027, I'll be splitting these hives and creating some more solid nukes. And a nuke is just a nucleus. It's just a smaller size hive where you use for resources, extra queens if your queens happen to be, doing poorly, etc. So it's kind of like pulling that spare tire out of the car. I do eventually think I'm going to, and don't tell my wife, add 2 more hives next year. All right. So I'm actually starting to get a little better at this whole beekeeping thing. And so I just want to get to about 4 hives, 2 nukes, and start to produce a little bit more honey. Now, a hobbyist beekeeper, like I said, has 2 hives, as you can see from here, 2 hives. All right. We have sideliners. Sideliners are like my friend Brian Coper from Castle Hives. I'll post his channel right here so you can see Castle Hives. Brian's awesome, and then there's, of course, and also David Hatch, who is here from the area as well, and he sells honey at the farmer's market. He has 100 hives. All right. So is that a sideliner? Maybe we're getting into what's called commercial beekeeping. And commercial beekeepers are those beekeepers that have probably more than, I'd say, 200 hives, and they do commercial beekeeping. A lot of these guys do massive production. They're commercial beekeepers. That's what they do. They make honey, and sometimes in the spring or late winter, they'll send their hives over to California or whatever, to the almond groves to pollinate the almonds, because those almonds that we buy at the store, have to be pollinated. So that's more of the commercial stuff, right? You do that as a business. Some guys, of course, like David Hatch, and he doesn't have a YouTube channel, but he has a website that I'm linking down below, which, by the way, right here is the link for you to subscribe to my channel. So as long as my fingers are doing the walking, yeah, that's a reference to something from a long time ago. I'm 63. Anyway, so I'll link David Hatch's website down there, and he'll probably have a schedule of farmers markets that he goes to. Brian Coper goes to farmers markets out in Canfield, and he sells his honey out there. So he has about 16 hives. I only have 2, 4 to come. All right, so what are we doing today? Today's a simple inspection. So as a beekeeper, you got to go in every, you don't really need to go into your hives every week. Every couple of weeks, it's okay. Now, if there's trouble in the hives, you might want to check them more frequently, but I did some preventative stuff, the past couple of weeks, as far as small hive beetles and checking for mites. And I'll post a link to one of these videos here and maybe the other one right here. All right. So you can see what that's about. But now we're just checking the hive. The other thing we're going to do is, as you can see right here in this hive, hive number 2, we have a deep box, a medium box. All right, it's called the super, but we're not supering for honey, we're just kind of doing this box in the hive configuration right now. And then up here is nothing. It's just a cover for my syrup, which I've taken off. All right, no, I still have syrup up here, but I'm about to take off because the nectar is still flowing, and the nectar is converted into honey, and honey is something that the bees make from collecting nectar, which is, by the way, nectar, when bees collect it, it's about 80% water, 20% sugar. So it's like sugar water, right? Like we make in the kitchen. But what bees do is, as they're collecting this nectar, the bees come back, they hand it over to another bee, which is interesting because I was listening to a podcast from Two Bees in a Podcast, and Dr. Jamie Ellis was describing how honey is made. And you know how you play that game where you try and hand over a ball, a tennis ball that you have on your neck to the next person, and you try not to drop it? I always wonder if bees, when they're doing this handover, if they drop this nectar, or if it's a perfect handover. So what do these bees do? Obviously, as the bees are foraging and they're flying in with the nectar, they're mixing it with enzymes inside their bodies, trying to start the conversion process of nectar to honey, to thick, beautiful honey, right? Thick golden honey. And as they hand it over to the next bee, that bee will take that nectar, also introduce some enzymes, and then take it to a cell, deposit it in that cell. And here's the cool part, is that those bees they blow bubbles into it, and that bubble starts an evaporation process, right? Because now we want that 80% water and 20% sugar to turn in the other direction. We want it to be 80% sugar water, or honey, and 20% or less, obviously, water. Did I say that right? No, we want it to be 20%, 80% honey, and 20% water. Man, I really messed that up. Should I edit that out? I probably will. But anyway, so that starts the evaporation process. Bees will be going past it, fanning their wings, trying to evaporate that more. And eventually, when they feel that it's a pretty good, they got to that level, and they don't have hygrometers like we do, spectrometers, whatever, they just cap it. And then stored for them to go in and eat it. All right. I think that's fascinating. I mean, what a beautiful thing. And then, they like to share it with us. And in the meantime, we take care of them. All right. They don't know they're sharing it with us. But anyway, so this one over here has a deep, a medium, and again, these are brood boxes. And I also put another medium up here, which right now is a brood box. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a queen excluder, and the queen excluder will exclude the queen from that top level because the queen lays eggs, and we don't want eggs in that honey super. So as we're getting now into fall, it is August, but we're starting to think about fall. There are mosquitoes buzzing around. It is buggy. As we're getting into fall, we start thinking about two things. We're thinking about winter bees, producing winter bees that will last through the winter, because most bees, honeybees, live around 45 or so days. But a winter bee survives about 4 to 6 months, depends on where you are. And the winter bees, of course, they'll be in the hive with the queen, keeping her warm, helping that queen survive. And, of course, try to maintain a basic colony. And when spring comes again, the queen starts to lay eggs. Those eggs emerge as, summer bees, if you will. They'll go out and they'll forage, and the process starts anew. You got a lot more information there, but we're doing a basic inspection. So here we're going to be looking for our queen, because that queen's unmarked. So when you find her, I'm going to show you how to mark a queen. And this one over here, we probably just put a queen excluder and a new super right here. Here's our super, our medium super. We'll be popping that on top, because the second thing we're looking for this time of year is the emergence of the fall goldenrod or the aster. All right, so we have a couple of flowers that are still about to bloom that the bees collect nectar from. Goldenrod's a big one here. Has a very distinctive smell. As you get close to your hive during goldenrod season, you're going to smell kind of a smelly sock smell. All right, but that doesn't mean that your honey is going to taste like smelly socks. Of course not. We wouldn't be selling it or eating it if it was. There's a lot of mosquitoes down here. And so we're preparing for the fall flow. And according to my nectar calculator or whatever it is, we still have nectar flowing right now. So we're having a pretty good flow. We're not having what we call a summer dearth, absence of feeding sources for the bees, but the goldenrod, from what I hear, kind of in mid-Ohio, is already starting to bloom. So if these bees are foraging 5 miles away looking for food, that goldenrod, as it starts to emerge, we want it to come into the hive. Number one, for the bees to store it for winter. Number two, for the bees to store it in supers, and then we'll harvest that that honey, in September or October. So that's the goal for today: inspection, and of course, just check a couple of things out. So stick around, and yeah, let's dive right into it. And we still have quite a few small hive beetles. I mean, I'm counting quite a number. So the other one's good. This one not so great, but oh, I got a 2-for-1 there. So far, 5, 6 small hive beetles on this lid. Scurrying. Killing small hive beetles off a lid is kind of like popping packaging. Okay, I'm seeing from up here, as we use my Apisolus smokeless smoker, which you can order from Apisolus using the code Winston20. Winston20 gives you 20% off. It's quite significant because most companies only give you about 10%. All right, so what I'm going to do real quick is take off these traps and see if they're being effective. They're in there. We got 2, 3, 4. So it doesn't work great, but it works. Maybe if you're a beekeeper and you're using hive beetle traps and you think they're better than these, go ahead and comment and tell me below. Okay? Always trying to find best solutions, best practices from my fellow beekeepers. All right. So, okay. Let's get into it. So these bees have a lot of nectar deposited in here, newly drawn comb, and some of it is capped. Again, this is not a super we'd be pulling anything off of. But we're just going to check, see small hive beetles in the cells. This is not a frame that we'd be pulling honey off of anyway. So this is just syrup that the bees will be using for themselves. Okay, cap brood, larvae in the middle cells. Good sign of another healthy queen. So you might look and say, oh, I don't see a lot of bees in that hive. Well, remember, it's the middle of the day. Half these bees are outside. When I come back later, they'll be coming home from a day of foraging, and they'll probably be hanging around outside the hive because it's pretty warm. So this queen should still have her white mark. If she doesn't, we'll mark her just like we did the other queen. Again, I'm seeing, well, I'm seeing what we want to see. We're seeing some nectar on the outside, probably syrup and nectar combined. But again, this frame will not be used for harvesting honey, so it's fine. Queen here, but we've got signs of healthy queen activity. We don't want the hive to become honey bound. Honey bound means too much honey where the queen doesn't have room to lay. How do you solve that? Well, take the syrup off if you're using syrup. So this is what we're doing today. And you can also shake them. Since nectar is mostly water, just shake them. Make sure you don't shake the queen off. And, that'll take the nectar off. But you also want to make sure that they have enough honey, food stores, to survive. So you have to make a decision, right? If we're seeing lots of cap brood, a fairly good amount, we're seeing larvae at various stages, I don't think we have to worry about being honey bound at this point. Hey, if you're a new viewer to this channel, have you clicked the subscribe button? I mean, you gotta like what you're seeing, right? If you do like what you're seeing, of course, hit that like. But the subscriptions are always awesome. Tell your friends. Sir Winston Honeybee is here for you. This is an educational beekeeping channel. I'm kind of scanning very fast. You see how these bees are holding their butts up in the air? They're fanning. They're fanning because, well, they want to cool down the hive. And of course, they're trying to cool down that nectar as well, or dehydrate the nectar. They are so cool. Just watching them like this. Small hive beetle continues to be an issue, but as the population increases, they push the small hive beetles out. This hive is by no means infested with small hive beetles. It just has small hive beetles in it, and you know, I mean, it's like kind of like keeping a dirty house. You want to keep a nice, clean house, right? You know, sometimes you're obsessed with that sort of thing. All right, I don't think I'm going to find that queen on that last frame. We'll go ahead and close this up, and we'll get into the deep box and see what's happening down there. So let's get this small hive beetle trap back on. You might be asking yourself, why am I squeezing these frames together? Well, Lagstroth, when he designed these hives and these frames, he came up with a concept called bee space. And bee space is an idea where bees will draw comb and work on only the frames. And if the frame is too wide, then the comb will kind of become clustered, messy, sticking to each other, you know, like burr comb. So like, you know, wild comb is usually like a weird shape, but the bee space that that Reverend Lagstroth came up with is the perfect amount. So the way these frames are built right here, this wood right here, this wood kind of maintains a proper bee frame. So you don't want the bee space to be too wide. And so that's why I squeeze them together. So my friend Brian Copra, who I mentioned earlier, I've mentioned him several times on this channel, from Castle Hives. He's been a great mentor, a great friend, and lately, he's in Canfield area, he has noticed, or had been told at least, of the evidence of bears. Now we all know from Yogi Bear that bears do love honey. I mean, bears like food, and they smell honey, it's sweet. And so, you know, they're big animals, and they can knock over and destroy entire beehives. They're pretty strong animals. And so he's had to put some electric fencing around his hives. The area that I'm in Northeast Ohio near Akron, there hasn't been reports of bears. We do get reports of coyotes, but they're not strong enough animals to get into a beehive and damage it. Now they can, and small animals like skunks and other animals, they can, you know, and groundhogs, they can irritate a beehive by scratching on it at night because they're nocturnal animals, but we haven't seen bears here yet. So we're going to search for our queen down here, and we see that our 21st bee frames are almost fully drawn. All right, and some good brood, and look at this honey. All right, so the queens have deposited some real honey, but that's not for us. This is theirs. And of course, they're going to use this to live on the rest of the summer. And once that goldenrod comes out, there'll be more honey for us and for them as we head into the winter months. All right, I'll be less lazy about looking for the queen right now. See if we can find it. I mean, we're seeing good cat brood, right? No complaints here. Everything looks pretty darn healthy. I'm going to check 2 more frames. And since you're getting a little testy at this point, could be the noise on the lawnmower, we're going to go ahead and quit. 2 more frames. Here we go. Oh, and there she is. There's our queen. She's got her white spot on her. She's hanging around. Last frame, and we found our queen. Let's put this hive back together, wrap it up for the day. Now we'll pop that queen excluder on. And now we're putting our honey super on. All right, bees, do your work. Do your magic. All right, well, what can I say? Generally a pretty good day in the hives today, right? Bees were relatively tolerant of me. Still one kind of buzzing around, but we had a good inspection, right? We saw both queens, marked the queen, put the honey supers on. We saw really great evidence of brood production by the queen. So we're concluding that we have some good, healthy queens. I gotta do one more quick thing. Even though it's mesh, it's still a little warm in there. And so, yeah, we had a great day, right? I'm excited about it. Queens are looking good. Brood production is great. And also, we have good signs of preparing for a robust fall. We put the queen excluders on to get honey into those supers as the goldenrod starts to emerge. And we're looking forward to harvest that honey probably around October-ish, and we'll get some more honey. Yeah. So I guess we're going to have to move on because the whatever equipment there is super loud. But thanks a lot for watching as always. Subscribe to my channel. Give me some likes. Give me some likes. I do appreciate the likes, the subs, and of course, the comments are always great. And as always, thank you for watching my YouTube channel. Keep those bees happy. You keep your bees happy if you have bees. I got happy bees. And I think YouTube is recommending you watch one of my videos right here.